Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. Before we get started, I just want to remind you to like, comment, share, follow, and subscribe. Now let's get on with today's show. Within a week, I received 2 pitches from marketing companies that wanted me to have their clients on my podcast as guests. Though one was somewhat relevant, both failed at convincing me to host these guests. Why? It was obvious that neither one took the time to determine if my show was a good fit to help their clients promote their books. Almost as difficult as producing and hosting your own podcast is getting to be a guest on someone else's. Unless you have friends or acquaintances who are podcasters that invite you, you'll have to find podcast hosts who might want you on their shows. First of all, you should research multiple podcast directories and platforms. Scouring various directories to find appropriate shows can yield possibilities. The good news is that many podcast directories and platforms are categorized by topic and have search tools. Start with Apple Podcasts, since it's been the top podcast platform and directory from the beginning because of their groundbreaking iPod device, which brought podcasts to the masses. To expand your search, check additional popular directories such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Amazon Music. Maybe even Patreon, which does host a lot of podcasts. Get Google to help you. Typing in your industry, topic, or market podcasts in Google or other search engines may draw up some podcasts to consider. Your search may also bring up results for blog posts such as top podcast for, and then fill in whatever topic or genre that you are interested in. Those posts can even be more helpful than search results since someone else has done the research and curated them for you. The biggest challenge with the top podcast type of listings is that they list the top podcasts. Though it's worth a shot, super popular shows may not be interested in small niche market or newbie guests. However, you can get 2 things from checking these out. 1, you can understand the type of material and guests that these top shows want by looking at what they currently offer. This can help you tailor podcast proposals for these or similar shows. 2, usually these top shows are listed in directories such as Apple Podcasts. Often these types of directories are Amazonized with "you also may be interested in" suggestions. Check out these additional suggestions for other podcast targets. Know and follow who's hot in your industry or target markets. Top content creators and thought leaders in your industry or genre are often guests on various podcasts. Following them could help you locate podcasts that might be a good fit for you too. Plus, you'll know that these shows actually do accept guests. Not all do. This can be a slow process, but one that can reveal relevant topics for your efforts. You could also get listed on speaker and guest expert services. As difficult as it may be for you to find the right podcast shows to approach, hosts might have an equally difficult time recruiting appropriate guests. After hosts have burned through their network of contacts, some of them may turn to services that help speakers, authors, and experts get guest appearances on radio, television, and other media outlets. These services may send out "looking for guests" and "looking for shows or opportunities" messages to their subscribers. Realize, though, that these services may be offered for a fee, and they may have varying rates of success in getting guest gigs for their clients or subscribers. Here's what podcast hosts really want. I've been lucky in that I've been invited to be a guest on many podcasts and online presentations. Most of these shows wanted to add my experience and expertise to their broadcast, but one of them wanted more. A lot more. I was approached by a podcaster who had located me through LinkedIn. Although I was not familiar with the show, it sounded like it aligned with the work I do. The host invited me to a pre-show interview to make sure that we were a good fit. Just a good idea. I get on the phone and we have a good conversation about the show topic. Then it turned to details of the show. She asks me about my email list. After I responded, she tells me I don't qualify as a guest because I didn't have 5,000 email subscribers to whom I would personally send notices about the guest appearance. Adding to that, she said that to have me on the show would not be fair to other podcast guests who did qualify. Go ahead, ask me how I felt at that moment. So I asked her about her email list and if she would be willing to add me to it to keep in touch. Her response was that she was working on her email list with her virtual assistant. So she wanted me to send announcements to my list of 5,000 subscribers, but she didn't even have a list? How would she be promoting me? I was glad I only spent a brief phone call on this. In my opinion, it was an email list poaching pitch. I'll address email list issues again later in the discussion, so let's put it aside for the moment. Though my ego took a bit of a hit, I was glad that this host did a pre-broadcast interview. Whether it's a phone call, email, or other communication, clarify expectations on both sides of the podcast microphone before agreeing to anything. So let's talk about how to approach podcast hosts. Once you've identified some appropriate podcasts, you'll want to figure out the best way to approach them with your cold call offer to be a guest. Here are some general guidelines for working with hosts and producers. Follow protocol. If the procedure for guest opportunities is not obvious or included in the podcast documentation, you'll have to dig a little bit further to determine how the host or producer wishes to be approached. This may be included on their websites, or you might have to connect with their contact us links. Establish a connection. When contacting a host or producer, mention if and how you are connected to the host or the show, such as on social media, you met at a conference, things like that. It will seem less like cold calling if you do have a recognizable connection. You don't want them to say, "Who the heck is this?" Sell the value you will provide by being a guest. Most podcast hosts and producers want to build their audience reach and provide good content. A large and relevant social media or blog following can be a huge selling point when approaching these people. In accepting you as a guest, they're hoping that you'll promote their show or website or whatever to your following. If you don't have a significant following, at least yet, you'll really need to sell how you'll provide value to the audience with what you say. Here's an important note about email. If a podcast host is interested in having you as a guest because of your large email subscriber base, make sure that you do the emailing so that you don't violate your subscribers' privacy. Never, ever turn over your email list to a podcast show or anyone else without getting express permission from each subscriber on that list. You would be violating privacy, CAN spam, and GDPR email laws. And don't get discouraged. If the host or producers are very busy, it may take them quite a while, maybe even months, to reply to your offer to be a guest, and that's if they reply at all. They may also have a calendar full of guests and may reject your offer for that reason. Don't take it as a personal judgment. If they didn't say they absolutely don't want you on their show, ask when they might be recruiting new guests and how to go about submitting a proposal. Don't hound podcast shows, hosts, or producers about your guest appearance pitch. You look desperate and unprofessional. Don't be surprised if it takes a long time to be on the show. In addition to the extended period of time it could take you to even get the opportunity to be on the show, many podcasts are recorded and then don't publish for months because it takes time to edit the audio files or video footage. I once was a guest on a podcast that took 8 months to actually get posted. It's their show, their schedule, and don't plan on getting paid. While certainly there may be podcasts who pay their guests, in most cases you will be appearing on the show gratis. The host figures that they're giving you exposure and access to their audience. Often you'll be given a plug on the broadcast itself or in the show's description, website, or notes. Another reason you may not be offered a fee for participating is because the show may not be making any money either, unless it has sponsors. The podcast might be just part of the host's content marketing program. As well, podcasts on Apple Podcasts are offered to listeners for free. Subscription-based podcasts are often offered as premium content on other platforms, and it looks like Apple Podcasts may have some sort of subscription option in the future, but yet I don't have any good information on that yet. Here's how to be a good podcast guest. Know the show. This was why the podcast pitches I mentioned earlier failed. One pitched a guest who would talk about writing your book. I only talk about the self-publishing business, not writing. The other pitch was for an author who talked about his book on being a millionaire. In addition to not understanding my show's topic, they didn't understand my show's format. In the last 3 to 4 years of weekly podcast shows, I have done only two interview episodes. That's about 1% of all my episodes to date. I only do interview episodes where I feel that the guest can share some unique and valuable information for my audience. I also personally recruit my guests. Be prepared for the podcast medium that's being used. These days, video podcasting is getting more play, even though audio still holds a prominent position. Know what medium, audio or video, or both, the show uses, and be prepared to present in that way. The podcast may use a variety of methods to podcast or record, including Zoom, Skype, webinars, phone conference lines, studio recording, or social media such as Facebook Live or Instagram Live. If your guest appearance is done live, keep it clean and watch your language. Some use delay devices, others may not. Depending on the platform or network being used, mature or obscene language or content could land you and the show into a lot of trouble with the platform or government regulators such as the FCC in the United States. Needless to say, you probably won't be asked back after an incident like that. Know where the show will be broadcast so that you can know your language and content limits. And be prepared with a list of interview questions. The most difficult types of podcasts for me are those where I'm invited to speak on a topic, but there's no agenda or questions provided by the host or producer. I don't know how to prepare, and I could be left struggling for an answer to something that's off topic or inappropriate. That doesn't do much to build my reputation, other than it might demonstrate that I can think on my feet. If I completely flounder, it could even damage my reputation. What I've also found is that those podcasts tend to ramble and are unfocused. Not having a show agenda can often be the sign of an inexperienced or lazy podcast host. If at all possible, ask the host for a list of questions or topics to be discussed. If they don't provide one, I've had that happen, or just flat out refuse, you could propose an agenda or list of questions. If they're not interested in your agenda proposal and not having a show plan is extremely unsettling for you, consider whether you want to be on the show or not. Remember, it's their show and they can run it any way they want. The host may even ignore your proposed agenda or questions when recording or on air. That's just as bad as having no agenda. And be early to the show. Jumping on the call well before the show begins will allow you and the host to settle in and work out any technology bugs. They will and do happen. Guaranteed. I hope you found that helpful. And if you did, please rate, review, and subscribe to the Heidi Thorne Show podcast on whatever audio podcast app you like to use. I'm on all the major ones, including Apple Podcast and Spotify. If you like the YouTube version of the podcast better, you just have to subscribe to my Heidi Thorne YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so you get an alert when a new video is up. I would appreciate it if you would share the Heidi Thorne Show with your friends on social media. My self-published books are available on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. All you have to do is type in my name, Heidi Thorne, on one of those sites, and my author page will come up with a list of all available titles. If you'd like to connect with me, my website is HeidiThorne.com, and I am most active on the social channels of Instagram and TikTok at Heidi Thorne. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode, and in the meantime, have a great day.